There's something most people believe about death that is fundamentally wrong. Not slightly off, not incomplete, completely, utterly wrong. They believe death is an ending, a cessation, a final curtain that falls on consciousness, on experience, on you. Why do they believe this? Some believe it because it comforts them, the idea of oblivion as rest, as relief from the burden of existence. No more problems, no more pain, just nothing, like going to sleep and never waking up. Others believe it because they've been told by materialist scientists and philosophers that consciousness is nothing more than electrochemical processes in meat, brain activity, neurons firing. And when the meat stops functioning, when the electrical signals cease, so do you. You're just a biological machine, they say, and when the machine breaks, there's no ghost left behind. But what if I told you that death is not an ending at all? What if I told you that what you call dying, that moment everyone fears, that final breath, that last heartbeat, is simply the moment you stop looking out of one window and begin looking out of another? This isn't speculation. This isn't philosophy pulled from ancient books that I'm trying to make sound profound. This is what was revealed to me in a dream, and the emotional impact of this revelation was so overwhelming, so absolutely shattering to everything I thought I understood about reality, that I woke up weeping uncontrollably, not from fear, not from sadness, but from the terrible, overwhelming relief of knowing the truth and simultaneously the horror of understanding what that truth actually means. Let me tell you what actually happens when this body dies. In the dream, I died, not symbolically, actually died. And in that moment of death, something extraordinary happened. There was no tunnel of light, no judgment, no angels or demons. Instead, there was a shift, immediate, effortless, disorienting. I opened my eyes and I was still here, still conscious, still experiencing, but everything was different. Different body, different age, different gender perhaps, different circumstances entirely. It was me, but not me. The same animator, the same witness, the same Atman, but looking out through a completely different window. And then I understood, this is what death is. This is what death has always been. We exist in what the Buddha called the trichiliocosm, the 3,000-fold great thousand-fold world. Imagine a billion worlds, nested in clusters, 1,000 small worlds, each containing 1,000 medium worlds, each containing 1,000 basic worlds. This isn't metaphor. This is the actual structure of reality, vast beyond comprehension, interconnected in ways that our linear time-bound minds cannot grasp. When you die, you don't leave the trichiliocosm. You cannot leave it. You simply awaken in a different room of the cosmic house, a different window, a different you, younger or older, male or female, rich or poor, healthy or sick. The variations are uncountable. Each death reveals another layer, another iteration, another manifestation across this infinite expanse. And here's what made me weep. You have been doing this forever. We exist in what the Buddha called the trichiliocosm, the 3,000-fold great thousand-fold world. Now, most people hear this and think it's just poetic language, metaphor, the kind of mystical talk that doesn't really mean anything concrete. But listen to what this actually describes. Imagine a billion worlds nested in clusters, describing systematically 1,000 small world systems, each containing 1,000 medium world systems, each containing 1,000 basic worlds. Do the math. That's a billion worlds. A billion places where consciousness manifests, where beings live and die and are born again. A billion different stages where the same cosmic drama plays out in infinite variation. This isn't metaphor. This isn't ancient people trying to describe something they didn't understand. This is the actual structure of reality, vast beyond comprehension, interconnected in ways that our linear, time-bound minds cannot grasp while we're stuck in one body, looking through one window. Think of it like a mansion with a billion rooms. Each room has a window. And you, the real you, the Atman, the eternal self, you're walking through this mansion, looking out of different windows. When you die, you don't leave the mansion. You cannot leave it. The mansion is existence itself, the total structure of conditioned reality. You simply walk from one room to another, close the curtain on one window, open the curtain on another, a different view, a different body, a different you, younger or older, male or female, rich or poor, healthy or sick, born into privilege or born into suffering, intelligent or simple, powerful or powerless. The variations are uncountable, literally uncountable. The relief came first. The profound, overwhelming, almost ecstatic relief of knowing I do not cease. When this body expires, when this particular configuration of what Buddhism calls the skandhas, form, sensation, perception, mental formations, consciousness, when these dissolve like mist in sunlight, the Atman does not dissolve with them. Think of it this way: you are not the car you drive. When the car breaks down, when it stops running, when it gets towed to the junkyard and crushed into a cube of metal, you don't get crushed. You just get out of the car and get into another one. The charioteer does not die when the chariot breaks. You are not this meat suit, this body made of bones and flesh and blood that's slowly deteriorating from the moment you're born. You are not this temporary arising of karmic conditions that your parents' DNA and your life circumstances happen to create. You are the animator. You are the animator. The witness, the eternal self that has been moving through form after form after form since beginningless time. There is no oblivion waiting, no final rest where you just stop existing, no permanent ending to consciousness, no eternal darkness, no void. You continue. You have always continued. But then came the horror, because if death is not an ending, then suffering is not an ending either. Let me explain why this is horrifying, because Westerners especially have been trained to think of continuity of consciousness as a good thing. I want to live forever, people say. I want immortality. No, you don't. Not like this. Because what continues is not some purified, enlightened version of you floating in bliss. What continues is you with all your ignorance, all your delusions, all your habitual patterns of suffering, just in a different body. The fire keeps burning. The wheel keeps turning. Samsara, this endless cycle of birth and death and rebirth, has no beginning and no end. It is a raging fire that consumes everything. You are in it. You have always been in it. You will always be in it until you do the one thing that can extinguish it. This is the truth the Buddha understood. This is the enlightenment that caused him to teach for 45 years, trying to show people the way out. Most people think Buddhism is about being nice, being mindful, reducing stress, maybe doing some meditation to feel calmer, posting peaceful quotes on Instagram with pictures of lotus flowers. No, Buddhism is about recognizing the prison you're in and finding the only exit that exists. Let me be very clear about what samsara is, because the word gets thrown around without people understanding its full implications. Samsara is not just the cycle of rebirth. That makes it sound almost neutral, like seasons changing. Spring, summer, fall, winter, spring again, just the way things are. No. Samsara is suffering perpetuating itself through ignorance. Here's how the trap works. You are born into a body. You open your eyes. You look down and see hands, feet, a body. Naturally, you assume, this is me. I am this body. Your parents call you by a name. This is Sarah. This is John. And you learn to respond to that name. You identify with it. I am Sarah. I am John. You have feelings, pleasant feelings, painful feelings, neutral feelings. When something good happens, you feel happy. When something bad happens, you feel sad. And you think, these feelings are mine. I am the one who is happy or sad. You have thoughts, endless streams of mental chatter, opinions, beliefs, memories, plans. And you think, these are my thoughts. This is my mind. This is who I am. Every time you do this, every time you identify with the skandhas, with this body, these feelings, these thoughts, you are making a fundamental error. You are confusing the chariot with the charioteer. You are mistaking the window for the one looking through it. You are identifying the costume with the actor, and that mistake has dire consequences. Because when you believe you are the body, you cling to the body. You fear its death. You try to preserve it, decorate it, maintain it. You suffer when it ages, when it gets sick, when it fails to meet your standards. When you believe you are these feelings, you grasp at pleasant ones and flee from painful ones. You organize your entire life around chasing pleasure and avoiding pain, which is impossible, which means you're constantly frustrated. When you believe you are these thoughts, you build an entire identity around mental formations that arise and pass like clouds. I am a Democrat. I am a Christian. I am successful. I am a failure. And then you suffer when reality challenges these identities. The Buddha said it directly over and over in the ancient text. Form is not the soul. Sensations are not the soul. Perceptions are not the soul. Mental formations are not the soul. Consciousness is not the soul. This is anatta, not there is no soul, as Western scholars mistranslated it. But these things are not your soul. These temporary conditioned phenomena that you've been identifying with your entire life, this body that changes every 7 years at the cellular level, these feelings that come and go like weather, these thoughts that appear and disappear like bubbles, they are not you. You are the Atman, the eternal, unchanging witness, the charioteer who has been riding through chariot after chariot after chariot, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. The Buddha said it directly over and over in the ancient text. Form is not the soul. Sensations are not the soul. Perceptions are not the soul. Mental formations are not the soul. Consciousness is not the soul. This is an atta, not there is no soul, as Western scholars mistranslated it, yet these things are not your soul. These temporary, conditioned phenomena that you've been identifying with your entire life, this body that changes every 7 years at the cellular level, these feelings that come and go like weather, these thoughts that appear and disappear like bubbles, they are not you. You are the Atman, the eternal, unchanging witness, the charioteer who has been riding through chariot after chariot, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. But you have forgotten this, and in forgetting, you suffer. Now here's where it gets even more overwhelming. Here's where my vision went beyond the traditional teachings into something that made the task seem almost impossibly vast. The Buddha found that to end the fire of samsara, you must enlighten all of you across the entire trichiliocosm. Think about what this means. Really think about it. Right now, in this moment, there are versions of you, manifestations of the same Atman, the same eternal witness, looking out of windows across a billion worlds. Some are suffering more than you, starving, being tortured, dying of disease, locked in mental anguish you can't even imagine from your relatively comfortable life. Some are suffering less, born into privilege, into ease, into circumstances where life feels basically okay most of the time. Some are closer to awakening, hopeful. Maybe they found the teachings, maybe they're practicing, maybe they're on the verge of breakthrough. Some are deeper in delusion, so lost in identification with form, with pleasure-seeking, with ego, that they can't even conceive of a path out. All of them are you. Not metaphorically, not in some abstract we are all one sense that people say at yoga retreats without really meaning it. Actually you, the same animator wearing different costumes, playing different roles, experiencing different karmic results based on actions taken in previous lives. And the task, the great burden that the Bodhisattva vows to achieve is to awaken all of them. You cannot simply enlighten this one manifestation and call it done. You can't just achieve personal liberation and say, well, I'm out of here. Good luck to the rest of you. Because the Atman is looking through countless windows, and as long as even one window remains identified with the skandhas, as long as even one manifestation is still confused, still suffering, still caught in the fire continues burning. This is why the Buddha said the task is vast. This is why he spoke of eons of practice, of lifetimes upon lifetimes of cultivation. This is why the path is called great. You're not just saving yourself, you're saving every version of yourself across the entire cosmic structure. What this changes, when you understand this, really understand it, not just intellectually, but in your bones, in your gut, in the core of your being, everything changes. Death stops being something to fear. Why would you fear it? It's just a transition, a door closing and another opening. The body dies, yes. The skandhas dissolve, yes. But the Atman, the real you, it continues. It has always continued. It will always continue until liberation is complete. But this also means you can't coast. You can't procrastinate. You can't say, I'll deal with spiritual practice later when I retire, when the kids are grown, when I have more time. Because later is now. It's always now. Think about it. You've already lived countless lifetimes. You've already had infinite opportunities to wake up, to see through the illusion, to recognize what you truly are. And yet here you are, still identified with form, still chasing pleasure and fleeing pain, still building identity around temporary phenomena. How many more lifetimes will you waste? How many more times will you be born, live a life of confusion and suffering, and die still not understanding? Every moment you spend identified with these temporary skandhas is another moment the fire burns. Every moment you believe, I am this body, or I am these thoughts, or I am this person with this name and this story, you are reinforcing the prison. The skandhas will expire, they always do. This body is already headed for the grave. Every day you age, every day cells die, every day you move closer to the inevitable breakdown of this physical form. As the Buddha said, behold this painted puppet, this body riddled with oozing sores, an erected facade, diseased heap that fools fancy and swoon over. True essence is not part of it. This body will break apart, these feelings will cease, these thoughts will dissolve. The entire apparatus you've been calling me will come to an end, and then you will open your eyes in another window, another body, another set of circumstances, another chance to recognize the truth, or another lifetime of identification with illusion. The wheel keeps turning until you stop it. So what do you do with this knowledge? First, you stop confusing the chariot with the charioteer. You begin the practice of discriminating between what is Atman and what is Anatman, between the eternal self and the temporary phenomena you've mistaken for self. This is not abstract philosophy. This is practical, moment-to-moment work. When pain arises in the body, you observe, this pain is not my soul. It is a sensation arising in form. The form is not me. When pleasure arises, you observe, this pleasure is not my soul. It is temporary, conditioned, arising and passing. When anger arises, when fear arises, when any emotion moves through you, this is not my soul. This is a feeling arising in the skandhas. When thoughts arise, the endless mental chatter, the opinions, the judgments, the stories you tell yourself about who you are, these are not my soul. These are mental formations, temporary and conditioned. When this entire experience of being a particular person in a particular body arises, you observe, this is not my soul. This is not what I truly am. This is the via negativa, the method of negation that both the Buddha and Vedanta teachers like Shankara used. Not denying that these things exist. The pain is real. The pleasure is real. The thoughts are real. They're arising, they're happening. But denying that they are you. Through this practice, repeated moment after moment, day after day, lifetime after lifetime if necessary, the Atman begins to recognize itself. The charioteer realizes it is not the chariot. The witness sees it is not the witnessed. The eternal understands it is not the temporary. And when this recognition becomes complete, when every window across the trichiliocosm awakens to this truth, the fire goes out. Not because the Atman is destroyed. The Atman cannot be destroyed. It is unborn, undying, eternal, unchanging, beyond time, beyond space, beyond all conditioned phenomena. But the identification ends, the ignorance ends, the clinging ends, and what the Buddha called nirvana, the extinguishing of the fire, is achieved. This is both the most hopeful and most sobering truth you will ever encounter. Hopeful because you do not die. The real you, the Atman, the charioteer, the animator, continues. Death is not oblivion. Death is not the end. It's just another door, another transition, another step in a journey that has been going on forever. Sobering because the suffering continues until you do something about it. The wheel keeps turning, the fire keeps burning, and the task of liberation is vast beyond measure. Not just one lifetime of practice, but countless lifetimes, across countless worlds, liberating every manifestation of yourself from the delusion that has trapped you since beginningless time. But here's what the Buddha understood that makes this bearable. You are not alone in this task. Every Buddha, every awakened being who has extinguished the fire, who has achieved complete liberation, they remain as guides, not floating in some heaven far away, but accessible, present, available to help. The Dharma, the teachings, the path, the method, has been laid out clearly. It's been tested for 2,500 years by millions of practitioners. The method works. It has always worked. It will always work. All you have to do is stop identifying with what you are not and recognize what you truly are. The soul is the charioteer. The soul is the refuge. The soul is the light, the sanctuary, the final end goal. Everything else, this body, these feelings, these thoughts, this entire constructed sense of personal identity, these are the chariot, and the chariot is already breaking apart. The question is, will you recognize the charioteer before the chariot disintegrates, or will you wake up in the next window, in the next body, in the next lifetime, still confused, still suffering, still identified with temporary phenomena, still believing the illusion is real? The choice, as it has always been, is yours. But understand this clearly, the choice is not to exist or not to exist. You will exist. The Atman is eternal. You cannot stop existing any more than you can stop space from being space. The choice is to suffer or to awaken. And that choice must be made not just once, not just in this lifetime, but across all windows, all worlds, all manifestations of this vast cosmic house you inhabit. This is the great task. This is what the Buddha saw under the Bodhi tree, what made him hesitate to teach because he thought no one would understand, what finally moved him to compassion to spend 45 years trying to show others the way. This is what made me weep, relief and horror intertwined, hope and despair in the same breath, when the truth was revealed in that dream. You do not die, but you must awaken. And the awakening must be complete, not just for this you, but for all yous, across all worlds, across the entire trichiliocosm. The fire is burning. It has always been burning. But you can extinguish it. The path is clear. The method is proven. The liberation is possible. The only question is, when will you be